Hey everyone, I just wanted to give a tidbit of advice in case everyone or anyone is considered or considering this Tom Brown tracker knife. I thought I'd do a little review of it today just to talk about the utility and the usefulness of it. I've had this one for years, probably 5, 6 years at least, maybe 7 years. I've never tried one of the bigger versions. I think they make 3 larger versions, which aren't really my style as far as the weight of them. I think they're maybe 2 pounds, and this one is probably 5 to 7 ounces, I would imagine. Comes with a pretty decent little Kydex sheath that's held up well after many years of being carried in all sorts of ways. But this knife, I just wanted to, I know it's controversial and a lot of people don't think too highly of the design, especially for the reputation of Tom Brown, because he really is an astute outdoorsman and full of knowledge and experience. And over the years, I have a good few knives and rotated them in and out. But over the last 5 or 6 years, I've learned more about this knife and have bonded with it, you could say. And it's easy to carry. That's one reason why it's nice, because you'll have it on you all the time. It takes the place of a folder, depending on what you need it to do. But I found that it can pretty much do everything that a knife really needs to do, and I'll explain a little bit of that to you here. But for one survival type outdoors knife, it covers the main bases of the full tang. It's got good, I think micarta, I'm pretty sure, handles that have aged real nicely, and it's pretty ergonomic. One thing I understand, people may have hot spots, and honestly, I use a knife enough, all different sorts of knives and hand tools in general, just landscaping, pruners, saws, everything, so my hands have toughened up, but no knife I use gives me hot spots or blisters, even if I carve with it for hours. So that's something also to consider. This may not be the most ergonomic knife, but if this is the knife you have and you're whittling spoons or something like that, or doing something tedious for a few hours with a knife, you'll get those hot spots, but after a little bit they'll go away. It's just like anything else. So that's important to remember, because a lot of people, I think that's the most important factor to them, and I understand that, but hot spots will go away when you get outdoors hands, simply put, I guess. But this knife is great because just earlier I passed it to my son, and he's very comfortable with this. It's a good safe size knife for him to use, and he can get a really good grasp on it. I have large hands, large to extra large, kind of thin though, they're not meaty, but I can get plenty, and I usually tie a little lanyard enough for a bowstring or something, an extra shoelaces worth on the end with some knots, and that really extends that purchase a good bit on the knife. So I really can get a pretty good grip on this, and I've carved spoons, spatulas, and things of that nature. Just a little while ago, we were using it to work on these cedar bowls, and because of the sweep in this blade, it's by far the best of almost all my bushcrafty traditional style blades, with more of a traditional point and blade shape as far as when you're thinking of Mora knives or other bushcrafting knives. This sweep allows it to be a better skinner. If you're skinning smaller animals, you can choke all the way up. And once you get those outdoorsman hands, a little saw like this isn't gonna affect you at all. So I find it comfortable holding it high up, right on the blade like that, if you're really trying to do something with a squirrel or something, and save a hide or a rabbit. And also the sweep allows it for getting in the hollows of things. We were scraping, using this to get in there like that, and it works perfect for making old-fashioned bowls or carving spoons, and those are things to consider. You know, if you only had one titanium spoon or one bowl and it got crushed in your pack against a rock or something, are you going to be screwed and give up? Are you going to die, or are you going to make another bowl? So, you know, it's good knowledge either which way, but the capabilities of this knife, it outperforms any Mora knife or any bushcrafting knife when it comes to things like skinning and making spoons and things like that, in a wider variety of tasks. And you can keep one part razor sharp on this flat edge, does well for, this is just a piece of poplar, but this flat edge does well for, you know, just you keep that nice and sharp, and you do your little feather sticks and stuff like that, and you can keep that sharper depending on what your style is and your grip, but you got plenty of blade there to do with what you need with feather sticks. And you can also do it with the sweet part. This one's gotten, I do admit, I had it nice and razor sharp before we started using these bowls. That's why my sweep's a little bit duller there, but you can see it's still perfectly capable, as capable as any other knife at doing your fire tasks. And batoning up to 2 or 3 inch wood, which, you know, I find myself, the better you get to know fire, the less you need to baton wood anyway, honestly. So that's not the biggest purpose for a knife. It needs to be able to do everything else, and it can baton just fine. I think there's probably other videos of people whacking it around. I know it's hardcore enough to take that abuse. It's a stoutly well-built knife. It also, on the back edge of it, can do just fine right there. The saw blade does great for striking a ferro rod. So that's another thing. It's that, I think, 1075 or 1095, just a regular traditional carbon steel, but it covers all the bases with, you can do flint and steel. I've tried on it, works just fine on this blade after it wears a little bit. So anyway, these are things to consider, because a lot of people I know knock this knife, and at first I honestly didn't think it was that great, but after getting to know it and spending years with it, I find myself using it more and more for all the reasons that I've mentioned to you, and probably more than I'm not thinking about. The sawback actually does a pretty good job also of a 90-degree, just a 90-degree, if you're doing an L7, if you're doing an L7 trigger or something, you can get a pretty good 90-degree cut like that. It's by far a silkier, having like a regular saw, and mine's dulled over the years. I haven't sharpened it much, but it does a decent job at that. But it's not a replacement for a saw by any means. In my case, with woodsman hands, the saw part honestly is kind of more like jimping. So it just keeps good traction for me, but it can do a decent job at that. But don't buy it for a saw. Buy it for all the tasks where you want a little knife that's perfectly capable to cover all your woodsman's chores, except for processing obviously large limbs. But you're usually not going to go and use a knife for that stuff anyway. Carry a saw like the Zubot or something to cut down trees. You don't want to use your knife for that stuff anyway. So for, I think, around $100, this knife has proven its worth, and I'm going to keep it forever. I highly recommend it. I've used my own money to get it. No one has given me these things. And I know it's a little dorky and kind of weird, but it makes sense. And I think you'll begin to love it more once you practice and spend more time outdoors using a knife. I think you'll begin to love it just as I have. Thanks for watching.